All right, now let's talk about real estate mortgage. Okay. Now, again, just to recap the definition of real estate mortgage, diba? It's a security over an immovable property or real rights. Okay, so therefore, the object of a contract of mortgage may either be immovables or alienable real rights in accordance with laws imposed upon immovables. Okay. Now, what are the requisites of a valid real estate mortgage? Again, a reiteration of its definition and the common requisites for pledge and mortgage. So, number one, because real estate mortgage is an accessory contract, it must be constituted to secure the fulfillment of a principal obligation. Number two, the mortgager must be the absolute owner of the thing mortgaged. Number three, the person constituting the mortgage must have the free disposal of the property, and in the absence thereof, he must at least be legally authorized. And as to formality, the document in which the mortgage appears is to be recorded in the registry of property. Okay. As to characteristics of real mortgage, so it's a real right, it's accessory, it's indivisible. We have discussed that. It's also inseparable. It is a limitation on ownership. It can secure all kinds of obligations, even conditional contracts, even contracts that are rescissible, voidable. It can secure all those types of obligations. Here, the property cannot be appropriated because of the prohibition against pactum commissorium, and the mortgage is a lien. Okay? What are the kinds of real mortgage? You also have conventional. So these are constituted voluntarily by the contracting parties. You have legal mortgage. This is required by law to be executed in favor of certain persons. And we have equitable mortgage, where the intention of the parties is to make the immovable as a security for the performance of the obligation, but the formalities of a real mortgage are not complied with. Diba diniscuss natin sa law on sales. Okay? As to the formality, okay, as a general rule, for the validity, okay, there is no form required to constitute a contract of real mortgage. However, if you want to affect third persons, or if you want to bind third persons as to that real estate mortgage, you must comply with the following formality. Number one, there must be a public instrument containing the description thereof. And number two, the same should be recorded in the registry of property. Okay, so in this case, the creditor mortgager has no other right than to demand the execution and the recording of the document in which the mortgage is formalized. Okay, but even if you do not comply with these two requisites, the mortgage is still valid. Okay, but if you want to affect third persons, like for example, gusto mo kapag binenta tong property, 'di ba? Ikaw yung creditor. Pag binenta ng debtor mortgager yung property, aware yung third persons na may existing mortgage dyan, then you should comply with these two requirements. And you can compel, 'di ba, the debtor mortgager to comply with the formality. Okay? As to scope, 'di ba, if a mortgage is executed on an immovable property, it likewise extends to its natural accessions, to its improvements, to its growing fruits, and the rents or income not yet received. Okay, when the obligation becomes due, and to the amount of the indemnity granted or owing to the proprietor. Okay, from the insurers of the property mortgage or in virtue of expropriation for public sale. Okay, in other words, hindi lang siya confined or hindi lang siya limited sa immovable property itself. Kasama yung accessions, improvements, growing fruits, and even yung rent or income not yet received at the time the obligation becomes due. Okay? Right? As a general rule, as to the principal obligation covered by the real estate mortgage, it covers only that which is stated in the deed. Okay? Even if it is less than the amount of the loan. Exception is if there is a stipulation to cover future advancements. Ang tawag dyan ay dragnet clause. Okay, na hindi lang yung existing but it can also cover future and advancements. So usually yan kung continuous yung utang, di ba, magdadagdag, so you can just include a dragnet clause. Question, can the mortgagor owner sell the property subject of a mortgage? The answer is yes. We already discussed this, diba? The owner is allowed to alienate the immovable property mortgage. Bakit? Kasi siya pa rin naman yung owner, diba? And any stipulation prohibiting or forbidding such right is called pactum de non aliendo and is considered void. Okay? You already know that. Okay? Just to refresh your memory. So, for example, D is indebted to C for 1 million pesos. So, to secure the obligation, D mortgaged his lot and executed a deed of real estate mortgage. So, in this case, D can validly dispose or transfer the lot to third persons. Any stipulation prohibiting him to do so is called pactum de non aliendo, which is void. Okay? Right. Another illustration, if D sells the property to X, X shall not be bound by the mortgage if the deed of real estate mortgage is not registered in the registry of property. Kasi sabi natin, di ba, kailangan mag-comply sa dalawang formality para mag-bind ng third person. Nasa public instrument, tapos na-register mo sa registry of property. Kung hindi mo yun ginawa, then the contract of mortgage is not binding as the third persons. Okay? On the other hand, kapag ni-register, that's the time that X, the third person, will be bound by such registered mortgage, and in case of foreclosure, okay, di ba, ang utang 1 million, the proceeds of the foreclosure, let's assume, is 1.2, yung excess na 200 kay X, mapupunta being the new owner. If the proceeds is only 800,000, hindi naman liable si X, the new owner, for the deficiency because, well, hindi naman siya yung debtor, okay? However, X shall be bound for the deficiency of 200,000 if there was novation. Diba? Novation meaning, instead na yung debtor ay si D, pinalitan ng personality ni X. So in this case, X will now become the debtor by novation, either through expromission or delegation. Another question, can you transfer the mortgage credit? Diba? Albawa, ikaw si creditor. You lent money and as security for that loan, there is a mortgage. Can you sell that mortgage credit? The answer is yes, okay? So in this case, the mortgage credit may be alienated or assigned to a third person in whole or in part with the formalities required by law. Okay, so since this affects real property, this must be in a public instrument. Okay? How about as to foreclosure of real estate mortgage? So foreclosure is a remedy available to the mortgagee by which he subjects the mortgage property to the satisfaction of the obligation, 'di ba? Dahil bawal nga yung automatic appropriation, 'di ba, ng property, bawal na pag nag-default sa utang sa creditor na agad yung property, the remedy now is foreclosure, 'di ba? Instead na automatic appropriation, this security will be sold, di ba? And any of the proceeds will be used to apply to the obligation or to the part of the loan which was not yet paid. Now, when can a property subject of a mortgage be foreclosed? Okay, the following are the grounds. Well, obviously, kapag may default, di ba? Hindi nabayaran yung principal obligation. Foreclosure is also possible if there is any violation of any condition, stipulation, or warranty by the mortgagor. So, pwede rin yun. Right. What are the kinds of foreclosure? Now, for foreclosure, you have judicial, you also have extrajudicial. So, when you say judicial, this is foreclosure made through filing in court. So, this is going through the courts, and the applicable rules are the rules on foreclosure under Rule 68 of your rules of court. Okay, but you do not need to, at least for purposes of the CPA board exams and considering na hindi naman kayo law students pa, di ba? You don't need to really study in detail yung rules on judicial foreclosure under Rule 68 of the Rules of Court. But just so you will have a general idea, di ba? Kaya nga judicial, pupunta ka ng korte, di ba? You file a petition in order for the foreclosure to take effect. Okay? On the other hand, you have extrajudicial. Okay, so there is a law which covers extrajudicial foreclosure. So that's Act number 3135. Okay, kailan possible na hindi ka na pupunta ng korte, extrajudicial na lang yung foreclosure. Okay, number one instance is if there is a stipulation in the mortgage contract that the mortgage may be foreclosed extrajudicially. Diba? That is why If in case there is a loan contract, for example, and there is a real estate mortgage, the one drafting the contract should make sure that there's a stipulation allowing the creditor mortgagee to foreclose extrajudicially the property subject of the mortgage. Because this type of foreclosure, yung judicial foreclosure, is very costly and mas matagal, di ba? So, in order to make the foreclosure easier, di ba? One way of doing it is to just stipulate, di ba, beforehand that the creditor mortgage is allowed to foreclose extrajudicially the thing mortgage. Okay? Or if there is a SPA inserted in the contract. So, in both cases, dapat merong authority. Okay? So, kung yung nag-draft ng contract, nakalimutan lagyan ng authority yung mortgagee to allow for extrajudicial foreclosure, pupunta ka sa judicial foreclosure. Okay? Okay, now let's talk about redemption. Okay, ano bang ibig sabihin ng redemption? So when you say redemption, this is a transaction wherein the mortgagor reacquires or buybacks the property which may have passed on under the mortgage or divested the property of the lien which the mortgage may have created. Okay, so there are two kinds of redemption. So you have equity of redemption and you have right of redemption. What is the difference between the two? When you say equity of redemption, well, if you look at the definition, it's really not redemption per se. Okay, bakit? Because equity of redemption is a right of mortgagor, di ba? To redeem the mortgage property after his default, di ba? Nag-default na siya in the performance of the conditions of the mortgage, but before, di ba? Before the sale of the mortgage property or confirmation of the sale, di ba? That's why I said hindi naman talaga siya redemption per se because you can exercise this right only prior to the sale or confirmation of the sale, di ba? So in essence, hindi mo pa naman talaga nire-reacquire yung sale because there is no transfer of ownership yet. But for purposes of discussion, di ba, we classify this as a type of redemption and we call this equity of redemption. Now, during that period, the mortgagor will pay the secured debt within the period specified in order to redeem the property. When is equity of redemption applicable? This is applicable for judicial foreclosure of real estate mortgage only. Okay? And when should you exercise your equity of redemption? Within 90 to 120 days from the date of the service of the order of the foreclosure or even thereafter but before the order of the confirmation of the sale. Di ba kasi sa judicial foreclosure, you will file a petition in court, di ba? So you will file a petition in court, so it will be heard by the court, and if proven to be sufficient in form and substance, the court will issue an order for the foreclosure. Now, upon receipt of that foreclosure, within 90 to 120 days, yung mortgagor, binibigyan siya ng time na bayaran ulit lahat ng utang niya, including the interest, expenses, and other fees, in order to prevent the consummation of the sale and to transfer the ownership, di ba? However, even though lumagpas na daw yung 90 to 120 days, pwede niya pa rin i-redeem yung property before the order of the confirmation of the sale. Kasi kapag binenta yung property, i-confirm pa ng court that the sale was made in accordance with the rules. So kahit naglaps na daw yung 90 to 120 days, you can still redeem that, but it should be prior to the order of the confirmation of the sale. Okay, so that's equity of redemption. The second kind is what you call the right of redemption. So ito talaga, this is redemption in essence. So when you say right of redemption, this is the right of mortgagor to redeem the mortgage property within 1 year from the date of registration of the certificate of sale. So dito nag-consummate na talaga yung sale. Pero binibigyan ka pa ng 1 taon, di ba? Para bawiin ulit siya, di ba? Para bawiin yung property, para i-repurchase ulit. Okay? Yung property from the time of registration of the certificate of sale. But take note, the right of redemption is applicable to extrajudicial foreclosure. Okay? As a general rule. Okay? However, take note, if the mortgagee is a bank, the right of redemption is available kahit judicial foreclosure siya. Diba? Sabi natin, general rule. right of redemption applicable lang sa extrajudicial foreclosure. Exception, kung ang mortgagee ay bank. Okay? Kung ang mortgagee ay bank, available rin yung right of redemption kahit judicial foreclosure pa yan. Basta ang mortgagee ay bank. Okay? Pero, kung yung mortgagee ay juridical person, okay? Tapos ang mortgagee bank, available pa rin yung right of redemption pero shorter period of time. Okay? This is only available before the registration of the certificate of sale with the applicable registry of deeds, which in no case shall be more than 3 months after foreclosure, whichever is earlier. Okay? So in order to summarize, diba, the difference between the equity of redemption, diba, let's make a table here. Although may summary pa rin naman later on. But since we are already discussing, para lang mas gets, di ba? So when you say equity of redemption, this refers only to judicial foreclosure. Okay. So walang equity of redemption kapag extrajudicial. Okay? Pag equity of redemption, you exercise this within 90 to 120 days from the issuance of the order, okay, of foreclosure, but not before the judicial confirmation of the sale. Okay? So pwedeng 90 to 120 days from the order of foreclosure or even after the foreclosure sale basta hindi pa nako-confirm yung sale, okay, judicially. Okay, how about right of redemption? Okay, right of redemption as a general rule applicable lang sa extrajudicial foreclosure. Okay, as a general rule. And this must be exercised within 1 year from the registration. Okay, 1 year from the registration. Okay. As a general rule, walang right of redemption sa judicial foreclosure. Applicable lang siya sa extrajudicial as a general rule. Exception, kung ang mortgagee mo ay bangko. Okay. So, kung bangko daw ang nagpautang sa'yo at dun mo binigay yung security mo in the form of real estate mortgage, okay, in this case, the right of redemption will still apply. Okay? In other words, kung kahit judicial foreclosure of mortgage pa yan, basta ang mortgagee mo bangko, pwede mong i-exercise either equity of redemption or right of redemption. Okay? Malinaw. Exception to the exception, okay? Kasi sabi natin, exception, right of redemption is available if the mortgagee is a bank. Okay? Exception to the exception, if the mortgagor is a juridical person, diba? Juridical person, okay? Yung right of redemption niya mas maikli, diba? This is only available before the registration of the certificate of sale, diba? As what's stated here, diba? Before the registration of the certificate of sale with the applicable registry of deeds, which shall in no case be more than 3 months after the foreclosure, whichever is earlier. Okay? So that's the difference between the two. Okay, you take note of that. Kaya kailangan mo rin malaman kung anong klaseng foreclosure yung i-avail ng mortgagor. Okay, so let us take illustrations for better understanding. Okay, so let's assume si ABC Bank, nanghiram siya ng pera from XYZ Corporation. Okay, and secured the obligation with a real estate mortgage. Okay, due to non-payment, XYZ Corporation foreclosed the mortgage. Question, what will be the applicable period of redemption? Okay. Take note dito, ang debtor ay ABC Bank. Ang creditor ay XYZ Corporation. Okay, which is a juridical person. Okay. So, in this case, to answer what will be the applicable period of redemption, the answer is the generic rule of 1 year. So, the exemption under the general banking law, which we have discussed, applies only if the bank is the creditor and the juridical person is the debtor. Dito baliktad, di ba? Baliktad. So, wag kayong malilito. Okay? In this case, the juridical person is the creditor and the bank is the debtor. Hello, future CPA. Welcome to your video lecture on the law on credit transactions. Okay, so based on the syllabus for the CPA board examinations, the law on credit transactions would cover pledge, chattel mortgage, and real estate mortgage. Okay, so our discussion for this video lecture would only be limited to those topics. Okay, sige, so let's start. Right. Let's start with the definition of what credit transactions are. So when you say credit transactions, this refers to all transactions involving the purchase or loan of goods, services, or money in the present with the promise to pay or deliver in the future. Diba? In other words, those that involve utang, diba? Purchase or loan of goods, services with a future promise to pay. Okay? All right. Now, when you say credit transactions, it may refer to secured transactions and unsecured transactions. So obviously, secured transactions are those transactions wherein there is a security, diba? Those that are supported by a collateral or an encumbrance of property. On the other hand, when you say unsecured transactions, these are credit transactions, the fulfillment of which does not have a collateral, pero yung security niya is merely a promise to pay or the personal commitment of another. So dito pwedeng pumasok yung guarantee or surety. Okay? But again, as I mentioned earlier at the start of the video, for purposes of the CPA board examinations, we will only cover secured transactions kasi dito papasok yung pledge at saka mortgage. Okay? Sige. So before we go in detail with the specific provisions on pledge in mortgage, let us first examine its definitions and let us also examine its similarities and including its differences. Okay? So let's start with the definition of pledge. So when you say pledge, this refers to an accessory contract. Okay? And again, when you say accessory contract, it's a contract that cannot exist, diba? Without the existence of a principal contract. Okay? So in a pledge, you have here a case wherein a debtor delivers to the creditor or even a third person a movable or personal property or document evidencing incorporeal rights in order to secure the fulfillment of a principal obligation. With the condition na kapag bayad na yung utang, di ba? Pag tapos na yung obligation, ibabalik yung thing, okay, to the pledgor with all the fruits and accessions, if any. Okay? So that's the characteristic of a pledge. Di ba? May actual delivery of the personal or movable property. Okay? And kapag bayad na, di ba, ibabalik sa pledgor with all the fruits and accessions. Okay? How about mortgage? So when you say mortgage, there are two kinds. It can either be chattel and real estate mortgage. What is the difference between the two? So when you say chattel mortgage, this is a mortgage which refers to personal property. Okay? And this is a type of mortgage that should be registered in the chattel mortgage register as a security for the performance of an obligation. On the other hand, when you say real estate mortgage, you have here a case wherein a principal obligation is secured by an immovable property or real rights. Okay? So this is the main difference. Sa chattel, personal. Sa real estate mortgage, it's real property or an immovable. Okay? What are the common essential requisites to pledge and mortgage? In other words, ano yung common requirements to both of these accessory contracts? So the first one is that they must be constituted to secure the fulfillment of a principal obligation. Kasi pareho nga silang accessory contract. Second common essential requisite, and this is a very important one, the pledgor or the mortgagor should be the absolute owner of the thing pledged or mortgage. Okay? You should compare this with a requirement on the contract of sale, di ba? Kasi you can only sell something that you own at the time of the delivery. But here, you should be the absolute owner of the thing, pledge, or mortgage. But take note, third parties or third persons who are not persons to the principal obligation, they may secure the latter by pledging or mortgaging their own property. Kasi ang requirement lang naman, absolute owner ka ng pinipledge mo or minomortgage. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na ikaw rin yung debtor. Okay? And then finally, the third essential requisite, the persons constituting the pledge or mortgage, since they are the absolute owner, they must also have the free disposal of their property. And in the absence thereof, they should be legally authorized for the purpose. Okay? So, dapat yung tatlong yan present for both pledge and mortgage para maging valid. Okay? So, by way of illustration, on September 30, D executed a contract of pledge over the cell phone of his father to secure his obligation to C for 10,000 pesos. On October 31, the father of D died, and as sole heir, he obtained ownership over all of the assets, including the cell phone. What is the status of the contract of pledge? The answer is the contract of pledge is void since the requirement of absolute ownership was not complied with. Diba? During the time na na-constitute yung pledge, hindi pa naman absolute owner si D. Okay? So, it's one of the essential requirements. So, yung reckoning point natin was during the time that the contract was entered into. Okay? I would just also like to highlight that a pledge or mortgage is a principal contract. So, before it can exist, there must be a valid obligation or a principal contract. But a pledge or mortgage may guarantee or secure the following. So, a voidable, unenforceable, or even a natural obligation, and all kinds of obligations, pure man yan or subject to a suspensive or resolutory condition. It is also of the essence of these contracts that when the principal obligation becomes due, the things in which the pledge or mortgage consists may be alienated for the payment to the creditor. Okay, so that's the nature of pledge or mortgage being an accessory contract. And this is just a reiteration of what we discussed earlier. Third persons who are not parties to the principal obligation, they may secure the obligation of another by pledging or mortgaging their own property. Okay, so for example, D is indebted to C for 100,000. X can execute a pledge in favor of C to secure the debt. Okay, so in this case, X can validly enter into a contract of pledge or mortgage kahit hindi siya party doon. Okay, as long as meron siyang absolute ownership and free disposal over the thing. Okay, kahit hindi siya yung principal debtor. Okay, another common requirement for both pledge and mortgage is the prohibition on automatic appropriation. Okay? So the creditor is not allowed to appropriate the things given by way of pledge or mortgage or even dispose of them. Any stipulation to the contrary is null and void. Okay? Ang tawag dito ay pactum commissorium. Again, ang pinagbabawal ay automatic appropriation. Yun bang stipulation na kapag hindi ka nakabayad, akin na tong pinledge mo, akin na tong minortgage mo. Yun yung pinagbabawal. Okay, pero hindi bawal yung stipulation na, okay, ibenta natin tong property na to, yung proceeds gamitin na pambayad sa akin. Okay, that's allowed. Ang pinagbabawal is automatic appropriation. Okay, so the following are the elements for pactum commissorium to exist. Number one, there is a pledge or mortgage wherein property is pledged or mortgaged by way of security for the payment of the principal obligation, and there is a stipulation for an automatic appropriation in the event of non-payment of the principal obligation within the stipulated period. Okay, ito yung bawal. Okay, so that's for pactum commissorium. Okay. All right. Another common characteristic of pledge and mortgage is the principle of indivisibility. Okay, what does that mean? So, pledge or mortgage is indivisible. In other words, even though the debt may be divided, for example, among the successors in interest of the debtor or the creditor, okay, or in other words, even though there will be a partial payment of, or if there are multiple parties in that credit, okay, the fact that the debtors are not equally liable or not solidarily liable will not affect the principle of indivisibility. Okay, and to simplify it further, hindi ibig sabihin na partially na settle na, for example, yung kalahati ng utang or even 99%. It doesn't mean that the pledge or mortgage can also be released for the same percentage, okay? So pledge or mortgage is indivisible in the sense that it can only be released or it can only be extinguished until the entire amount of the credit is already settled, okay? Yun yung ibig sabihin ng principle ng indivisibility. So for example, D executed a contract of pledge in favor of C. He delivered his diamond ring and a gold watch as security for his loan amounting to 100,000. So, hindi nabayaran yung utang. C died, leaving X and Y as his sole heirs. Si D, he likewise died, leaving A and B his sole heirs. Si A, binayaran niya yung share niya on the 100,000 debt owed by his father to X's father. Okay? So, ito yung diamond ring, yung gold watch, both secures 100,000. Diba? Si D, ang heirs niya si A at saka si B, tapos si C, ang heirs niya naman si X at si Y. Okay? So, both the heirs of the debtor and creditor will share equally in the amount of the debt. Okay? Now, si X, binayaran niya yung share niya kay, si A, binayaran niya yung share niya kay X in the amount of 50,000. Okay? However, okay, A cannot demand and X cannot even allow the release of any of the objects given by way of pledge since the debtor's heirs who has paid a part of the debt cannot ask for the proportionate extinguishment of the pledge or mortgage as long as the debt is not completely satisfied. Di ba? Kahit sabihin mo, ay, nabayaran ko na yung 50,000. Di pa rin sabihin ni A, oy, release mo na yung diamond ring. Okay? That's not the case because pledge is indivisible. Okay? Neither can the creditor's heirs, di ba, who received his share of the debt, return the pledge or cancel the mortgage to the prejudice of the other heirs who have not been paid. So, dito, di ba, ang binayaran lang ni A ay si X. Okay? So, yung share niya satisfied na. So, even X cannot release partly the amount of the debt. Okay? Again, a manifestation of the principle of indivisibility of pledge. Okay? When is the rule on indivisibility not applicable? So this is not applicable if there are several things given in mortgage or pledge, and each one of them guarantees only a portion of the credit. Okay? In other words, meron na specific amount na sinisecure yung thing, pledge, or mortgage. So in this case, the debtor shall have a right to the extinguishment of the pledge or mortgage as the portion of the debt for which each thing is especially answerable was already satisfied. So for example, si D may dalawa siyang utang with C for 50,000. So si D, sinecure niya by way of pledge yung diamond ring and gold watch. So in this case, each of the contract of pledge is to secure separate obligations. So as such, once D paid 50,000, he can demand the release of the diamond ring or the gold watch depending to which obligation each pertains. Okay? So, dito hindi na mag-a-apply yung indivisibility kasi sabi 50K para sa diamond ring, 50K para sa watch, di ba? So, pag nabayaran na yung 50K, pwede nang i-release yung sa diamond ring. And in this the same case, kung nabayaran na yung other 50K, pwede nang i-release yung sa gold watch. Okay? Alright. Take note as well that a promise to constitute a pledge or mortgage give rise only to a personal action between the contracting parties, okay? Without prejudice, of course, to the criminal responsibility incurred by him who defrauds another by offering in pledge or mortgage as unencumbered things which he knew were subject to some burden or by misrepresenting himself to be the owner of the same. Okay, so yung promise between the prospective pledger or mortgagor, it gives rise to personal action. But if you misrepresented to be the owner of a property, when in fact hindi ka naman owner, or you said it's unencumbered, when in fact encumbered pala, that can give rise to a criminal responsibility. Okay, so those are the similarities between pledge and mortgage. But before we delve on the specific provisions on pledge and mortgage, I would like just to inform you that in fact, actually, we have a new law. Okay, it's called the Personal Property Security Act. Okay, so the PPSA, this took effect on February 9, 2019. It was enacted on August 17, 2018, but it took effect on February 9, 2019. The purpose of PPSA, let's just call it PPSA, is to strengthen the secured transactions legal framework in the Philippines. So it aims to provide the creation, perfection, determination of priority, establishment of a centralized notice registry, and enforcement of security interest in personal property except aircraft and ships. Okay? So it aims to standardize all the requirements for the creation, perfection, and determination of security interest over personal property. And actually, it expressly repeals, amends, and modifies the provisions of the chattel mortgage law and the civil code provisions on pledge. Okay? So as of now, diba, as you are watching this video, yung civil code provisions on pledge, pati yung chattel mortgage law, it's actually already repealed by the PPSA. Okay? That's why it's really curious to know why the BOA decided to include in your syllabus the provisions of pledge and chattel mortgage despite the passage of the new law. And considering 2019 pa yan naging effective. Okay? And even in the bar exam, this is already the one covered. Wala na yung sa pledge and chattel mortgage because it's already expressly repealed. Okay? Well, one thing that I think maybe the reason why is because yung full implementation ng PPSA, it's subject to two conditions. Number one, there should be the issuance of the IRR, okay, the implementation of the IRR. And second, the registry, which will serve as a centralized notice registry as required by the PPSA, should already be operational. Okay. As of now, actually, yung 2019 pa, the IRR was already passed. So, ano na siya? It's already implemented. Okay? As to the centralized notice registry, nag-soft launch na, pero hindi pa siya, hindi pa siya fully operational. Okay? So, hindi pa fully implemented yung provisions ng PPSA, but it's already effective. Meaning, abolished na, repealed na talaga yung chattel mortgage law and provisions on pledge. Well, since bagong law, may mga transitory provisions. But it's already effective. So, effectively, yung i-discuss natin on pledge and chattel mortgage is already repealed by PPSA. Okay? That's why I decided to give you a peek, diba? Quick peek on what the new law provides. So, I will just include the salient provisions. Now, under the PPSA rules, parties are now free to enter into any form of security arrangements over movable property, as long as the security arrangement is not inconsistent with the law. Okay, and a security interest may be created over all forms of tangible or intangible asset or personal property. In other words, wala na actually yung distinction between pledge and chattel mortgage. Okay? So, as long as hindi inconsistent yung pag-create ng security interest over the movable property, that is allowed. Okay? So, under the PPSA, a security interest may be created by an agreement. Diba? So, the parties can just execute a written contract signed by the parties, identifying the collateral, describing the collateral, okay, and the amount of the debt. Okay, so in that case, you already create a security interest over that personal property. You can also create a security interest by an operating lease for not less than 1 year, or the sale of an account receivable, unless otherwise stipulated by the parties in the document of sale. The PPSA also allows the creation of security interest in future properties or after acquired asset, but it is created only when the grantor acquires the rights in it or the power to encumber it. Okay? So, ngayon, ganyan na, kasimple, di ba? Regardless of the classification of personal property, tangible man or intangible, a security interest may be created as between the parties. Now, kapag na-create mo na yung security interest, para maging binding siya sa third persons, you have to perfect the security interest. How will you perfect security interest? You can do it by registration of a notice with the registry. Ito yung sinasabi ko. Ito yung registry na kailangan gawin ng Land Registration Authority. So, I visited the website of the LRA and I noticed na hindi pa nga fully operational yung registry. So, pwede ka nang mag-create ng user accounts pero hindi pa siya fully operational. Okay? So, ongoing pa yung development. Okay? You can also perfect a security interest by possession of the collateral. Okay? So, kung hindi mo man maparegister, pag na-possess mo, a security interest is already perfected. Or by control of investment property and deposit account. Kapag na-perfect mo yung security interest, it becomes effective against third parties. Okay? So, again, wala na. Nawala na yung distinction between pledge and mortgage. Okay, simplified na lahat. If the subject of the security is a personal property, this is how you create a security interest and this is how you perfect it. Okay, but take note, under Section 8 of the IRR of PPSA, if the security interest was created prior to February 9, 2019, okay, ito yung effectivity date ng PPSA. Okay, this is the effectivity date, pagkatapos ma-publish sa Official Gazette, so this was the effectivity date. Sabi ng IRR, kapag prior sa February 9, 2019, it will still be governed by the prior law, creating the security interest. Therefore, kung prior to such date na create yung security interest, pwede pa rin mag-apply yung pledge, pwede pa rin mag-apply yung chattel mortgage. However, if the security interest was already perfected on or after February 9, 2019, it is governed already by PPSA. However, dahil yung registry hindi pa siya fully operational, yung registration aspect, it will still comply with Section 4 of the Chattel Mortgage Law in the meantime. Okay? In the meantime na hindi pa full operational yung registry. Okay? So, siguro kung magbibigay man ng problem, you have to take note kung ano yung date, di ba? Kung prior to February 9, 2019 ba or on or after. Di ba? We can never know. Malay mo, aware yung examiner na. Or they would just like to test you whether you know of the existence of this new law. Okay? So, as we discussed the provisions on pledge and chattel mortgage, just bear that in mind. Na may bago na palang batas. Okay? But since your syllabus still includes these old provisions of pledge and chattel mortgage, we have no choice but to discuss this. Okay? Sige. Alright? Okay, so let's start with the provisions on pledge. Okay? Alright. Now, how can you constitute pledge? Okay, or how can you create a contract of pledge? Okay, so based on the definition that we provided earlier for pledge, this is done by placing in possession of the creditor or of the third person for purpose of securing the fulfillment of a principal obligation, the thing pledge, or the document evidencing incorporeal rights. Applicable pag mga intangible property. With the understanding na ibabalik mo yon upon the fulfillment of the obligation, including the fruits and accessions. Okay? Ano yung pwedeng maging subject ng pledge? Lahat ng immovable, di ba? Provided they are susceptible of possession. Pwede rin ang incorporeal rights, di ba? Shares, di ba? Negotiable instruments, and other similar documents that may be pledged. Okay? So the instrument proving the right pledge shall be delivered to the creditor. Kasi yun naman yung distinctive feature ng pledge. There is an actual possession by the creditor. Okay, so what are the kinds of pledge? So you have conventional or voluntary, and you also have legal. So when you say conventional or voluntary, as the name suggests, this is constituted by the mutual consent of the pledger and the pledgee. On the other hand, when you say legal, this is created by operation of law. Okay. The rules applicable to the object of the pledge, well, first, it should be within the commerce of men and capable of possession kasi requirement nga yan for pledge. Then if the pledge earns or produces fruits, income, dividends, or interest, the creditor shall compensate whatever he receives with those which are owing him. But if none are owing him, or insofar as the amount may exceed that which is due, he can apply it to the principal. Okay? So for example, si D, may utang siya kay C for 100,000 secured by a pledge on shares of securities owned by D in XYD Corporation. While the debt remained unpaid, the corporation declared dividends. So this is considered as fruits. In this case, C may apply such dividends to any interest that may be due to him. And kung wala, pwede niyang i-apply sa principal. Okay? Next, unless there is a stipulation to the contrary, the pledge shall extend to the interest and earnings of the right pledge. So for example, D promised to deliver to C a diamond ring worth 100,000. Okay? So to secure the obligation, D delivered a promissory note executed by X in favor of D, which earns 10% annual interest. So in this case, the interest being earned by the promissory note given by way of pledge will also form part of what secures the obligation to deliver. Okay, what else? In case of pledge of animals, paano naman yung anak? Halimbawa, ang pinledge ay baka, nanganak yung baka. So in this case, their offspring shall pertain to the pledger or owner of animals pledge but still subject to pledge, okay, if there's no stipulation to the contrary. Next, unless the thing pledge is expropriated, the debtor continues to be the owner thereof. Okay, siya pa rin yung owner, although wala siyang possession. Nevertheless, the creditor may bring the actions which pertain to the owner of the thing pledge in order to recover it from or defend it against third person. Okay? Right? Can a thing pledge be deposited with a third person? The answer is yes. Okay? So on the part of the pledgee, if there is a stipulation granting such right, pwede naman. Diba? On the part of the pledgor, if through the negligence or willful act of the pledgee, the thing pledge is in danger of being lost or impaired. Diba? So, pwedeng i-deposit sa third person kasi, well, on the part of the pledgee, pwedeng mawala or masira. Okay? Or, the pledgee uses or misuses the thing. So, in this case, the pledgor can deposit the thing with a third person. Okay? Right? What if there are fears of destruction, loss, or impairment without the pledgee's fault? Okay, so in this case, the pledger may demand the return of the thing upon offering a substitute, okay, provided na same kind and not of inferior quality. Or, the pledgee may cause the same to be sold at a public sale. Yung proceeds ng auction, it will now be used as a security for the principal obligation in the same manner as the thing originally pledged. So in this case, the pledgee is bound to advise the pledgor without delay of any danger to the thing pledged. Okay? How about as to formality? Should we observe a certain formality for pledge? Now, as between the parties, it may be in any form. Okay? Ang importante dito, delivery of the thing. Di ba? Merong possession, yung pledgee. Okay? But with regards to third persons, it will not take effect against them if a description of the thing pledge and the date of the pledge does not appear in a public instrument. So, kailangan merong public instrument in order to bind third persons. Okay? So, that's the required formality for pledge. Now, let's discuss the rights of the debtor or the pledgor. First, diba, to alienate with the consent of the pledgee the thing pledge. Okay? Siya pa rin naman yung owner niyan, diba? So, as part of his rights as an owner, he can still alienate it or sell it to another, dispose it, convey it to another. But again, subject to the consent of the pledgee kasi na kay pledgee yung possession. Okay? What else? To ask that it be judicially or extrajudicially deposited if it is used without authority or for a purpose other than its preservation. Because as a general rule, the pledgee cannot use the thing pledge. Okay? What else? To continue to be the owner of the thing pledge unless it is expropriated. Okay? Next, to ask for the return of the thing after mabayaran yung utang kasama yung interest and expenses. Okay? Ito diniscuss na natin kanina. If there is a danger of being lost or impaired through the negligence or willful act of the pledgee, can ask that the pledge, the thing pledge be deposited with a third person. Okay? The pledger can also demand the return of the thing pledge if he will offer a substitute, if there are reasonable grounds for the fear, for the destruction or impairment of the thing pledged without the fault of the pledgee. Okay? Right? How about as to the obligations of the debtor or the pledgor? Well, obviously, to pay the debt, including the interest with expenses in a proper case when they are due. Okay? He is also obliged to pay damages that the pledgee may suffer by reason of the flaws of the thing pledge if he was aware of such flaws but did not advise the pledgee of the same. So for example, ang pinledge ay sasakyan, 'di ba? Tapos yung sasakyan pala sira yung preno, 'di ba? Ang sasakyan kailangan mo yan i-start from time to time paanda rin, 'di ba? Para hindi masira yung makina. So let's assume for example that the pledgee used this car for preservation, 'di ba? Para hindi masira yung makina. And then when he started the car, drove it around for certain minutes, biglang hindi na gumagana yung preno. And the pledger was aware that the brake was not working. So in this case, if the pledgee suffers damages, the pledger should reimburse him for the same. Okay? So that's part of the obligations of the debtor or pledger. How about on the part of the creditor or pledgee? What are his rights? First is to retain the thing in his possession Or kung nasa third person, di ba, to retain the possession until mabayaran yung utang. Yun naman yung main essence ng pledge, di ba? Sangla, di ba? Yun naman yung main essence. You can also demand reimbursement of the expenses made for preservation of the thing, di ba? Using the same example that we used kanina, di ba? Sa sasakyan, for example, nagpa-change oil kasi kailangan naman talaga. Or any other expenses to preserve the thing, pwedeng magpa-reimburse sa pledger. Kasi si pledger pa rin naman yung owner. The pledgee can also bring actions which pertain to the owner of the thing pledged in order to recover it from or defend it against third person. Okay? A pledgee can also use the thing pledged in the following cases. Una, pag authorized. Okay, authorized. Pangalawa, kailangan yung use for the preservation of the thing. Okay? Pero general rule natin, bawal gamitin. Okay? Exceptions, like what we said, authorized, or kailangan for preservation. So in these cases, the thing pledged may be used. Okay? What else? If the pledgee was deceived on the substance or quality of the thing pledged, he may either claim another thing as a substitute or demand immediate payment of the principal obligation. Diba? Niloko siya. Akala niya yung pinled siya sa kanyang ring ay diamond, yun pala puwet ng baso. So in that case, he can ask for a substitute or demand immediate payment. Okay, if without the fault of the pledgee, there is danger of destruction, impairment, or diminution, as discussed earlier, it may be sold at a public auction and then yung proceeds, it will be used now as a security. If a credit which has been pledged becomes due before it is redeemed, the pledgee may collect and receive the amount due, and then he shall apply the same to the payment of his claim and deliver the surplus, should there be any, to the pledger. Okay? And finally, to sell the thing pledged upon default of the debtor. Okay? Ito naman yung pinaka-remedy ng isang creditor if in case hindi makabayad si debtor. So since we are talking about the right to sell, let us now discuss the foreclosure sale in case of default of the debtor pledger. Okay? So in this case, in order to effect the foreclosure sale, the creditor to whom the credit has not been satisfied in due time may go to a notary public for the sale of the thing pledged. Okay? So yung sale, it shall be made at a public auction. Okay? And the debtor and the owner of the thing pledged should be notified. Okay? Stating the amount for which the public sale is to be held. Okay? Now, well, during the public auction sale, di ba, ibibenta, okay? What will happen now to the proceeds of the sale? Okay? Kapag binenta mo yung thing pledge in a public sale, di ba, following yung steps na sinabi natin kanina, that fact of sale will already extinguish the principal obligation regardless of the proceeds. Okay? So kung mas mataas man, equal, or mas mababa yung proceeds ng sale sa amount ng obligation kasama na yung interest and expenses, it will already extinguish the obligation. Okay? Therefore, kung for example, yung value ng thing pledge is 50,000, nabenta ng creditor for 60,000. This entire 60,000 will belong to the creditor. Okay? On the contrary, kung yung value ng thing pledge ay 50,000, nabenta lang ng 40,000, the creditor can no longer recover the deficiency. Okay? And notwithstanding any stipulation to the contrary. Okay? Ito yung prevailing rule. Okay? So, kung mas mataas man, mas mababa, or equal, it will extinguish the obligation. Kung sobra, sa creditor. Kung kulang, shoulder pa rin ng creditor, hindi pwedeng singilin ng kulang si debtor. Okay? But in reality, of course, hindi ka naman magpapasangla ng property or ng thing na mas mababa yung value sa utang. Diba? That is why kapag nagsasangla, ang nare-require syempre yung mga matataas yung value na property precisely because of this rule. Okay? Alright. So for example, ganito. Okay, para mas malinaw. So si D, may utang siya kay C na 100,000. Diamond ring. Okay? So 120,000 yung proceeds. So as a rule, C will be entitled thereto. Okay, so si creditor. Except if there is a stipulation that debtor or pledger will be entitled to the excess. Okay, on the other hand, kung kulang, C will not be entitled to the deficiency regardless of stipulation. Okay, so that's your application for foreclosure sale. Okay, Can the creditor appropriate the thing pledged? Well, the general answer is no, di ba? Because we have a prohibition on pactum commissorium under Article 2088 of your Civil Code. However, particularly for pledge, okay, the creditor is given the right to appropriate the thing pledged in the following instances. If at the first auction hindi nabenta yung thing pledge, okay, a second one should be held. Uulitin yung proseso. If at the second auction there is no sale either, the creditor is now allowed to appropriate the thing pledged. Okay? So in this case, he shall be obliged to give an acquittance for his entire claim. Okay? So pagkatapos ng dalawa, pwede niya nang kunin yung thing pledged. Question: can the pledger or owner bid during the foreclosure sale? The answer is yes. Okay? And he shall have a better right if he should offer the same terms as the highest bidder. How about the pledgee? Can the pledgee bid? The answer is yes. Okay? But his offer shall not be valid kung siya lang yung bidder. Okay? All the bids at the public auction shall offer to pay the purchase price at once, and if any other bid is accepted, the pledgee is deemed to have received the purchase price as far as the pledger or owner is concerned. Okay? So those are the rights of the creditors or the pledgee. How about the obligations? Okay, so first obligation of the creditor or pledgee is to take care of the thing pledged with the diligence of a good father of a family kasi nasa kanya yung possession. Okay, the creditor or pledgee is also liable for the loss or deterioration of the thing because of his fault unless it is due to a fortuitous event. Okay, the creditor or pledgee is also not allowed to deposit the thing pledged with a third person unless there is a stipulation authorizing him to do so. He shall also be responsible for the acts of his agents or employees. Okay? And baliktarin lang natin yung rule kanina, di ba? Hindi niya pwedeng gamitin yung thing pledge unless authorized or kailangan for preservation. Okay? The creditor or pledgee is also required to deliver to the debtor the surplus after paying his claim from what he has collected on a credit that was pledged and which has become due before it is redeemed. Okay, so for example, ang pinledge sa'yo is a security wherein may matatanggap kang proceeds, di ba? So yung amount ng utang 50,000, yung nakolekta mo 60K, syempre yung sobra na 10K, this should be delivered to the debtor pledger. Okay? Right? How about for the third person who pledges his own movable property to secure the debt of another? Di ba? Kasi sabi natin pwede yun. Na third person yung magsisecure ng utang ng ibang tao. So in this case, the following are the rights of a third person. First, to be indemnified by the debtor if he pays the creditor. Di ba? So this is actually subrogation. Di ba? So kung si third person, binayaran niya sa creditor, the debtor should reimburse him or should indemnify him for everything that he has paid. Diba? Yung amount, yung interest, expenses, and damages if they are due. Okay, and aside from that, the right to be subrogated to all the rights of the creditor against the debtor if he pays the creditor. Question, diba? So you remember in your discussion on law and obligations, diba? Diba, you remember in your discussion in law on obligations, di ba? You have discussed particularly sa extinguishment of obligations, di ba? Sa payment or performance. Articles 1236 and 1237. So doon diniscuss ano yung effect kapag ang nagbayad ng obligation ay third person, di ba? And in that, you need to determine was the payment of the third person made with the consent or with the knowledge of the debtor or not. Kasi iba yung effect, di ba? As a general rule, kapag walang consent ng debtor and ang nagbayad ay third person, he can only be reimbursed up to the amount that the debtor was benefited. On the other hand, kapag may consent ng debtor, the third person, aside from having the right to be reimbursed, he will also have the right to be subrogated in the rights of the creditor. Okay, now in this case, question, what if, for example, itong third person who mortgage or pledge his own movable property to secure the debt of another, paid the death of the debtor without the knowledge or even against the will of the debtor, can he be subrogated? Okay, walang alam, walang knowledge, di ba? Can he be subrogated? The answer is yes. Because he is interested in the fulfillment of the obligation. And aside from that, Articles 2067 and 2120 expressly grants him the right to be subrogated to all the rights of the creditor if he pays the creditor. Okay? So that is our rule. Okay? Interested siya sa fulfillment ng obligation. So he can really pay, di ba? He can even compel the creditor to accept his payment. Okay? Right? The third person who pledges his own movable property is also entitled to be released from liability in the following cases. Okay, so first, if the creditor voluntarily accepts immovable or other property in payment of the debt, even if the creditor thereafter loses the same by eviction, di ba? So in this case, parang nagkaroon ng novation, di ba? Instead na yung movable property yung naging security, naging immovable. Okay? What else? If in-extend yung time granted to the debtor for the payment without the knowledge of the pledgor. Okay? Kasi nai-increase pa yung risk, di ba, of non-payment. Or nai-increase yung risk na baka ma-appropriate yung thing pledge. Hindi siya in-inform na binigyan pala ng extension as to payment si debtor. So it will result in the release of the liability of the pledgor. Or if through some other acts of the creditor, the pledgor cannot be subrogated to the rights, mortgages, and preferences of the creditor. So in these cases, the third person will be released from liability. Okay? Okay, so just to emphasize again, if the credit is the object of the pledge and the pledgee is allowed to collect, diba, whatever is due on that credit, so he will receive them, and if there is an excess or surplus, then he will remit that to the pledgor. Okay, so by way of illustration, diba? So si D indebted to C for 10,000 pesos, and to secure the performance of the obligation, pinledge niya yung credit by delivering the promissory note issued to him by M. So si M may utang sa kanya, may hawak siyang promissory note. So, negotiate niya yun kay C, which is due on September 30, 2020. So, nung September 30, naging due na. So, pwede niya nang i-collect yung 10,000. Okay? And kung may excess, ibabalik niya kay D. Okay? Note that in this illustration, there was no foreclosure. This is different from foreclosure sale, where the creditor pledgee is entitled to the excess as a general rule. Okay? So, may special rule pagdating sa credit. Okay? And just final points for pledge. So take note of the other rules. So after the public auction, the pledgee shall promptly advise the pledger or owner of the result thereof. Okay? And any third person who has any right or to the thing pledged may satisfy the principal obligation as soon as the latter becomes due and demandable. Kasi nga interested siya sa fulfillment ng obligation. If there are two or more things pledged, the pledgee may choose which he will sell unless there is a stipulation to the contrary. He may also demand the sale of only as many as of the things as are necessary for the payment of the debt. Hindi naman pwedeng sobra-sobra. Okay? With regards to pawn shops and other establishments, meron silang sariling batas. Okay? So, subsidiary application lang yung civil code provisions on credit transactions. And then finally, how do you extinguish pledge? Okay? Number one, the same cause of extinguishment as all other obligations as provided under Article 1231 of your Civil Code. Diba? Yung palo, reme, kono, FU. Okay? Pare, FU. So, same. Okay? Pag binalik, of course. Okay? Any stipulation that the pledge is not extinguished by the return of the thing is actually void. Okay? Pwede ring statement, diba? In writing by the pledgee that he renounces or abandons the pledge already. Payment of the debt, okay? Sale of the thing pledge at public auction, and appropriation of the thing in case of failure of second public auction, as we discussed earlier. Okay? How about legal pledge? Okay, when is there legal pledge? Okay? All right. Okay, so again, legal pledge are pledges that are created by operation of law. Diba? These are constituted by operation of law. So in this case, the right of retention exists. So it is the law which grants them the right to retain the thing, although the parties did not mutually agree on using the thing as a security for an obligation. So what are the instances of legal pledges where there is right of retention? You have Article 546, wherein if the right of the possessor in good faith is not reimbursed or refunded the necessary expenses, pwede niyang i-retain yon hanggang hindi siya nababayaran. What else? Article 1707, the lien on the goods manufactured or work done by a laborer until his wages had been paid. Okay? Article 1731, if a worker executes work upon a movable and he is not yet paid, he can retain it. Okay? Legal pledge as well. Article 1914, okay, so an agent should be reimbursed of his advances and damages. Kapag hindi pa siya nare-reimburse, he can retain the thing subject of the agency. You also have Article 1994, the right of retention of a depositary until full payment of what is due him by reason of the deposit. Okay, and then you have Article 2004, the right of hotel keeper to retain the things of the guests which are brought into the hotel kapag hindi ka pa nakabayad ng hotel bills. Okay, so these are the instances of legal pledge. Now, a thing under the pledge by operation of law, it may be sold only after a demand of the amount for which the thing is retained. Okay? Kapag nag-demand, hindi pa rin nakabayad, then you can already have the public auction which shall take place within 1 month after such demand. Okay? So those are your provisions for pledge. Okay? Now let's talk about chattel mortgage. Okay, so what is chattel mortgage? So this is a contract, an accessory contract, by virtue of which personal property is recorded in the chattel mortgage register as a security for the performance of an obligation. So take note, ang main distinction actually ng chattel mortgage versus pledge. Sa pledge, merong surrender of possession, di ba? May delivery. On the other hand, when you speak of chattel mortgage, movable property pa rin, kaya lang, in order to use it as security, kailangan mo ng recording with the chattel mortgage register. So on that note, what are the characteristics of chattel mortgage? So number one, it's considered as a formal contract because there's an express requirement that it must be embodied in a public instrument and recorded in the chattel mortgage register. Number two, it's an accessory contract because, well, its existence depends upon an existence of an existing valid principal obligation. Number three, it's unilateral because the obligation really falls upon the creditor to free the chattel from encumbrance upon the payment of the principal obligation. Number four, take note that it does not convey dominion. Okay? There's no transfer of ownership, but is only used as a security. And then finally, it creates a real right or a lien which is being recorded and follows the chattel wherever it goes. Okay? So what are the requisites in order to have a valid chattel mortgage? Okay, so number one, of course, it should cover only movable property. But take note, there's one recognized exception. If ever the parties treat as personal property that which is by nature would be real property, then the parties will be considered to have entered a chattel mortgage contract, although by nature, the object is really real property. So for example, A and B entered into a chattel mortgage for a house. So obviously, a house is considered as an immovable property. Now, even though by nature this is considered as an immovable property, if, however, the parties treated this as if this is a personal property, therefore entering into a chattel mortgage contract, they cannot thereafter deny, diba, the validity of the chattel mortgage contract because at that time, they're already considered stopped, diba? Stopped from denying that they have entered into a valid chattel mortgage contract. Okay? Next, again, registration with the chattel mortgage register. Saan ka magpaparegister? Where the mortgagor reside. Now, take note if the property is located in a different province, di ba? Sa ibang province nakatira si mortgagor and then nasa ibang province naman yung property, then kailangan mo ng registration in both provinces. Okay? Number three, there should be a description of the property in that registration. And then number four, it must be accompanied by an affidavit of good faith. So what is an affidavit of good faith? An affidavit of good faith, this is a sworn statement in a chattel mortgage contract wherein the parties severally swear that the mortgage is made for the purpose of securing the obligation specified in the conditions thereof and for no other purposes,
and that the same is a just and valid existing obligation and one not entered into for the purpose of fraud. Okay. Now, what would happen if in case the mortgage contract did not contain an affidavit of good faith? And sabi ng Supreme Court, well, its absence does not affect the validity of the contract. Its absence vitiates the mortgage only as against third persons, okay, who are without notice, like the creditors and subsequent encumbrances, okay? But its absence is not fatal as between the parties, okay? And take note, a chattel mortgage can only cover obligations existing at the time the mortgage is constituted, di ba? So you need to distinguish this with a real estate mortgage na pwedeng merong future advances, di ba? Yung dragnet clause. So sa chattel mortgage, that's not possible. Okay? How about for after acquired property? Can it be covered by chattel mortgage? Diba? So, nag-agree tayo that a chattel mortgage can only secure existing obligations. How about after acquired property? Can it secure existing obligations? As a general rule, no. Okay? Exception, if the after acquired property is only as substitute for the goods already on hand or they are purchased with the proceeds of the sale of such goods. Okay? So, based on the characteristics and requisites that we discussed, it is vital that a chattel mortgage should be registered because the fact of registration is tantamount or equivalent to the symbolic delivery of the mortgage to the mortgagee, which is considered to be equivalent to actual delivery. Now, what would happen if the chattel mortgage is not registered? If the instrument is not recorded as between the parties, that is nevertheless binding. However, the person in whose favor the law establishes a mortgage can compel, di ba? Can demand the execution and the recording of the document. And since hindi mo rin na-register, it is not binding as to third parties. Okay? Now, similar to a real estate mortgage, in case of default of the debtor of the payment of the obligation, the remedy of foreclosure is likewise available. Now, how will you conduct foreclosure for chattel mortgage? Now, for foreclosure of chattel mortgage, it shall be done extrajudicially. Therefore, there is no judicial foreclosure of chattel mortgage. Now, in order to conduct the chattel mortgage, you need to send out notices first, okay? So, you need to send out a notice to the debtor that is 10 days prior to the sale. And you should also post it in 2 or more public places 10 days before the auction, okay? Now, can you redeem the property subject of a chattel mortgage? There is no right of redemption that exists in a foreclosure of chattel mortgage. Now, upon the conduct of foreclosure sale, how will you apply the proceeds? Okay. Now, you apply it as follows. So, first, as to the cost and expenses of keeping the property and its sale. Next, as to the payment of the obligation secured by the mortgage. Next, kung meron man na subsequent mortgages, di ba, kung may sobra, then you apply it to them. And then kung meron pang sobra, you reimburse it to the, or you remit it to the mortgagor or person holding under him. Okay. Now, paano naman kung kulang, di ba? Paano kung mas konti yung foreclosure proceeds doon sa obligation? Now, in this case, the creditor is allowed to institute a court action to recover the deficiency. That's the general rule. Exception, kapag mag-a-apply yung recto law. Because you recall, under Article 1484 of your Civil Code, if the chattel mortgage over the things sold is foreclosed, there is a prohibition as to the recovery of deficiency. Okay? So that's for chattel mortgage. And then finally, let us distinguish pledge, real estate mortgage, and chattel mortgage. Okay. First, as to object. Okay. Again, for pledge, you only have personal property that is susceptible of possession, including incorporeal rights. For real estate mortgage, obviously, real property, but it also extends to natural accessions, improvement, growing fruits, and the rents or incomes not yet received when the obligation becomes due, and even to the amount of indemnity from insurance or from expropriation. In a real estate mortgage, you can include after acquired properties, while in a chattel mortgage, only the personal property is subject thereof. Okay, next distinction as to perfection. Pledge being a real contract requires delivery. Okay, but in order to bind third parties, you need public instrument. A real estate mortgage, this is consensual, but this is covered by the statute of frauds because this is an interest in a real right. In order to bind third parties, you need to execute a public instrument and then have it registered with the Registry of Deeds. Chattel mortgage, this is a formal contract, di ba? Kailangan na sa public instrument and then registered with the Chattel Mortgage Register and dapat merong affidavit of good faith. Okay? Particularly for vessels, registration is needed with the marina. Okay? And for motor vehicles, you should also report it to the LTO. As to possession, pledge, kailangan i-transfer sa pledgee, sa real estate mortgage, and sa chattel mortgage, it is retained by the mortgagor. As to the principal obligation covered for pledge, that which is existing at the time of pledge, for real estate mortgage, it generally covers only that which is stated in the deed, even if less than the amount of the loan. Okay? Exception kung merong dragnet clause. Okay? So, a stipulation to cover future advancements. In a chattel mortgage, those only indicated in the affidavit of good faith, unless there's a stipulation as to increase in coverage, which will be binding, but the security itself arises only after amending the old contract. Next, as to the sale of the thing during the pendency of the contract, as to pledge, yes, you can sell the property subject of a pledge as long as may consent ni creditor or pledgee, kasi siya pa rin yung magre-retain ng possession. As to real estate mortgage, that is valid. Actually, any stipulation to the contrary is void, di ba? Yung pactum de non eliendo. In a chattel mortgage, however, the mortgagor owner cannot sell the property mortgage without the consent of the mortgagee, written on the back of the mortgage and noted on the record thereof in the Registry of Deeds, where the property is located. Okay, pwede mong ibenta, kailangan mo lang hingin yung consent ni mortgagee and dapat nakasulat siya sa likod ng record. Okay, for the registration of the chattel mortgage. Otherwise, there is criminal liability under Article 319 of the Revised Penal Code, which is removal of mortgage property. Okay, so kailangan mo ng consent. Otherwise, criminal penalty. As to the pledge, okay, how can you sell the thing to answer for the debt? So for pledge, this is done by notary public. So this is always through public auction, always extrajudicial, hindi kailangan ng intervention ng courts. While for real estate mortgage, you can do it extrajudicially, di ba? So no need to file a petition in court. You can simply ask the assistance of a clerk of court or a notary public to conduct the sale, or you can either do it judicially by filing a petition in court under the Rule 68 of your Rules of Court. While for chattel mortgage, it is always extrajudicial. All right. As to the notice of the foreclosure sale to the mortgagor or pledgor, for pledge, it is required, stating the amount due. For real estate mortgage, if extrajudicial, not required unless stipulated. For judicial, you need to post the notice in 3 public places at least 20 days prior to the sale, and you also need to publish the notice in a newspaper of general circulation. For chattel mortgage, required 10 days prior to the sale, kailangan mo rin i-post in 2 or more public places 10 days before the auction. Okay. How about as to the creditor's right to excess of the selling price over unpaid obligation? Sa pledge, entitled ang creditor sa excess unless there is a stipulation to the contrary. So, pwede silang mag-agree na, okay, ibalik na lang natin kay debtor yung sobra. But kung walang stipulation, kay creditor mapupunta. But take note, this is only applicable to conventional pledge. Sa legal pledge, the excess will pertain to the debtor, okay, or to the owner of the thing. For real estate mortgage, the creditor is not entitled to the excess, similar with chattel mortgage. As the creditor's right to recover deficiency, as to pledge, the creditor is not entitled to recover any deficiency. And take note, they cannot stipulate, okay? Because that stipulation is not valid, okay? So in all cases, the creditor is not entitled to recover any deficiency. How about for real estate mortgage? Yes, pwede, except if the mortgagor is a third person, unless there is a stipulation making him liable. For chattel mortgage, pwede, okay, unless covered ng recto law. Okay? As to the right of redemption or equity of redemption, sa pledge, walang ganon. Sa real estate mortgage, kung extrajudicial foreclosure, you have the right of redemption, which is, again, 1 year from the date of foreclosure, except kung creditor is a bank and debtor is a juridical person. In that case, The redemption period is only until the registration of the sale, but in no case exceeding 3 months from the date of foreclosure sale. Kung judicial foreclosure naman, equity of redemption is available, which is 90 to 120 days from the receipt of the service of order of foreclosure or until the confirmation by the sale of the court. For chattel mortgage, you have no right of redemption after foreclosure sale. Okay? So that ends our discussion for credit transactions.